करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
So we were discussing about the great painter Andrea Del Sarto. In the poem by Robert Browning, it's a melancholic monologue by Andrea Del Sarto. So in his monologue, Andrea Del Sarto reveals his extreme weakness, and the entire thing that he talks about is reflective of his sort of a failed life. The constant question that artists face even today is whether art should be pursued for the value of the art, which is based on some higher inspiration, or should it be considered for some worldly purpose, commercial purpose, which is at a lower level. Both may not be mutually exclusive, but yet in the poem also he says that there must be a call of a higher heaven. So in other words, every artist must produce his art based on a sublime inspiration. In fact, he reveals that in the poem. But he chooses not to, or whether I do not know if we can use the term chooses not to, but he is not able to. However perfected he may be at art also, from time to time he admits that his works lack the depth and lack the soul that is there in the contemporary artists' paintings, like Rafael, like Michelangelo and others. So he is trying to derive that inspiration from Lucrezia, his wife. So here one thing that we must remember is, when we place a reality value on any object or being outside us and try to gain an inspiration from it, it cannot last for long. However much you may try, it will be there for a while, but that everlasting source of inspiration one has to find within oneself. Now, in the process of all these things, time and again, even as he understands the role of Lucrezia, and sometimes he sort of blames her also, he ultimately comes back to blaming himself as a failure. And then he goes on to say that everything is okay, everything is alright, this is how fate is meant to be, this is how God has given the plan for us. It is sort of a reconciliation for himself. So the ultimate irony that we see in the poem is his failure in confronting the direct question himself. What if everything fails? You know, that fear of failure, the fear of having any repercussions from the worldly point of view, you must overcome that in order to produce an inspired art. But that he has never ever crossed. That has been his failure. And not just that. The irony is that he has not confronted this question directly. Therefore, he turns his head the other way and he keeps on saying that this is how it should be and I am okay with what I am. I know this is the saddest part of the poem, a saddest part of his life. And this actually, Swamiji says, is due to excessive infatuation or attachment. In this case, Andrea Del Sarto's attachment towards his wife Lucrezia. And what is sad is that ultimately, at the cost of everything, did he retain her or the pristine freshness of the relationship with her? That also is not there. She is already in relationship with a cousin or another lover, and that is actually they are demanding that his work be done for the repayment of the loan of his cousin or friend's friend, like that it is. So she is also having a very condescending attitude towards him and sort of uses his talent for her own purposes. That's all we see in this sorry state of affairs. We continue with the poem. We concluded in the last class by saying that here is a beautiful statement that comes in this set of lines where he says, "In this world, who can do a thing will not, and who would do it cannot, I perceive." This is not a law that he is talking here, but this is a general observation that we see in the world. There are people who are blessed with talent. There are people who are blessed with great amount of intelligence or brilliancy in a particular field, but somehow they are not inclined or wanting to prove themselves or wanting to do it. Others who are desperate about wanting to use that talent and get name or fame out of it or get a commercial success out of it, they are just not having the talent to execute it. This we see as an observation. This is how the world is, and that is what Andrea Del Sarto is saying here. In this world, who can do a thing will not, and who would do it cannot, I perceive. Yet the wills somewhat to the power, and thus we half men struggle at the end. God, I conclude, compensates, punishes. It is safer for me if the award be strict, that I am something underrated here. Poor this long while despised, to speak the truth. I dared not, leave home all day, for fear of chancing on the Paris lords. The best is when they pass and look aside, but they speak sometimes. I must bear it all. Well, may they speak. That Francis, that first time, and that long festal year at Fontainebleau. See, he ultimately says that according to the action that a person does, so he is talking about the effect of law of karma in general. God compensates, God punishes. So whatever I have got, it is based on whatever I have chosen and whatever I have done. That I am underrated as a painter in Florence here, it is safer for me. You know why? To speak the truth, I really do not want to leave this house all day. I want to be confined here for one reason, that I might encounter some lords of the Paris outside. And why? Because we have said in the last class, and he is going to say in a few lines later, that the king of Paris, who was a patron of his art and in good faith had given him a lot of money, which he spent on building this house, and based on Lucrezia's demands he came back, and the idea was that he will go back quickly there, but he did not. And so there is every chance that he might be questioned. See, the thing is that it might not be a written agreement, but when a patron like a king is wanting to promote your art, it is understood that way. Of course, kings keep poets, artists, etc. at a pedestal, and they will not sort of put a condition on them, because these real patrons allow the artist to blossom. But you cannot take advantage of their patronage and do whatever you want. So obviously, on a written agreement, he might not be questioned. But it is very obvious when people who are loyal to the king and who know what has happened there, if they confront him, it will be too embarrassing for him, So the best is when they pass and look aside, but they speak sometimes. And I must bear it all. They will speak in front of him, they will speak behind him, and they have sort of every right to do so. And what can Andrea Del Sarto do? He has to silently bear it all. Well, may they speak that Francis, that first time and that long festal year at Fontainebleau. So sort of 1 year he was in France. It was probably the best time of his life when all his art was speaking and everybody there was also appreciating the way that he was painting. He was feeling the same way probably as the other contemporary painters were feeling. So it is in this period that he has also experienced what it is to blossom fully. Okay, but it was a very short journey for him. I surely could sometimes leave the ground, put on the glory Raphael's daily wear, in that humane great monarch's golden look, one finger in his beard or twisted curl over his mouth's good mark that made the smile, one arm about my shoulder, round my neck, the jingle of his gold chain in my ear, I painting proudly with his breath on me, all his coat round him seeing with eyes, such frank French eyes and such a fire of souls. He is remembering or reminiscing on those times. He is referring to the king as a humane great monarch. So that means he had a good feeling for Andrea Del Sarto. He was not like how we saw as a patron in the letter to the Earl of Chesterfield. Not like that. He was a genuine patron. And then during that time, whatever Raphael and other painters they were, and then they go about professionally doing their art, like that Andrea Del Sarto was also doing. And what was his relationship with the king? The king was so much pleased by his art that he would put his arms around the painter Andrea Del Sarto, and he could, that means what he says is that he felt very, very close to him. Both of them had a very close bondage and relationship. And as the king was admiring and he was painting, I painting proudly with his breath on me, like that he was so close to the king. As he was doing all this painting, all his court round him, seeing with his eyes. The great way by which the king was admiring the art, all his subject and all the people of France, they were also in the same mode. They were also appreciating the art as the king would do. Such frank French eyes and such a fire of souls. Profuse my hand kept plying by those hearts. And best of all, this face beyond. This in the background, waiting on my work, to crown the issue with a last reward. A good time, was it not, my kingly days, and had you not grown restless? But I know, it is done and past. It was right, my instinct said. To live, the life grew golden and not grey. And I am the weak-eyed bat no sun should tempt out of the grange whose four walls make this world. For any artist, when there is a great encouragement from the connoisseurs of art, from the people who admire that art, it is true that the inspiration is from within, but any production of art is meant for the public, right? So the artists are serving the people at a higher and a greater level. You see that when a singer gets the right type of audience, he feels more enthused to sing even deeper songs, like that it is. When a speaker on a particular subject gets an audience who can appreciate what he is saying, or is at a frequency that what he is saying, he will be inspired to dig more and more and speak more subtle themes also. Otherwise, mechanically for a crowd, whether for a fee or whether for the time that is allotted or something, he can speak and come. But definitely the subject of the inspiration, the deep theme is there within you only. But it gets augmented when there are people around you who are encouraging you to do better. And that was his experience in France. So, as the people were encouraging, his hands were painting better and better pictures. And even in those pictures, as he was doing, what was he visualizing and painting is this, he says, this face. Whose face? Lucrezia's face. Was in the background. So, as it was mentioned, that most of his painting, including Madonna's painting, etc., resembled Lucrezia because he was totally infatuated with her. And he says those were his great days. Those were the kingly days. And then what happened? As he was in the peak of his career and it was all growing up nicely there, Lucrezia became restless. Very, very sorry state of affairs. And that's how it was. She's, because of her demands and other whatever, she wanted him, and he felt very helpless. Because of his infatuation and attachment, he felt very helpless. And but I know, now then he says it's done. So he knows that she is to be blamed. That's where I said, so he ultimately turns the blame on him only. There is no other way. He is in such a hopeless and helpless situation. And it was right, my instinct said. Whether he says it with conviction, we do not know. But it is a sort of reconciliation with itself. Yes, I should have come. Why? Because you can always say more than what the king gave us, money and everything. It is Lucrezia's love and Lucrezia's company. That is what is more important for me. That is how he is going to reconcile for himself. But deep within he knows that he has committed something wrong. And this is the situation of a person who is entirely caught up in the attachment. To live, the life grew golden and not grey. And I am the weak-eyed bat, no sun should tempt. So, like the weak-eyed bat which is confined to the barn and no sun can tempt it, like that, this person is confined to the walls of attachment and because of his infatuation to Lucrezia, that nothing else can tempt him, nothing else can make him come out of that. So for some it goes into the golden way, like it is prosperous and moving ahead. For some it is grey, that means it is dull and going beyond, like that it is. How could it end in any other way? You called me and I came home to your heart. The triumph was to reach and stay there. Since I reached it ere the triumph, what is lost? Let my hands frame your face in your hair's gold. You beautiful Lucrezia that are mine. Rafael did this, Andrea painted that. The romance is better when you pray. But still the other's virgin was his wife. Men will excuse me. I am glad to judge. He says, how could it have ended in any other way? It could not have ended in any other way. That he had to helplessly come and sort of fall at the feet of Lucrezia was the thing that was ordained. Because no other choice was there for him. The mind, when it is totally caught up with this, the intellect has the intellect is too weak to exercise any control over the mind. So how could it have ended? No, in no other way it could have ended. You called me and I came home to your heart. But that's why he is now justifying sort of. He says the triumph was to reach and stay there. Since I reached it, here the triumph, what is lost? Actual triumph would have been that I could have been a great painter based on the patronage from the king there, and I would have got much more glory. But I reached it. It here refers to the love of Lucrezia. So he thought that more than anything he has reached that ultimate triumph. So therefore what is lost? I value this more. Very poetic, very romantic and very, speaking from a philosophical level, if you look at the words that are given here, but mostly sort of empty words, because it is coming out of, not out of his conviction and a great sense of renunciation or something like that. It is coming out of his total helplessness. And then again he goes into the whole poem, if you remember, is talking about his wanting to stay side by side with Lucrezia because he is extremely tired and he needs her company to sort of rejuvenate him. So he again comes to that point where he says, he puts his hands like this, he frames her face, right? And based on that, he has painted the Madonna exactly the same way as Rafael has painted, but in Madonna is Virgin Mary's painting. In the painting of Andrea Del Sarto, the painting is reflecting the face of Lucrezia. Like many other paintings, this painting also reflects, because in each and every painting, his obsession of Lucrezia comes out here. Okay, you beautiful Lucrezia that are mine. Rafael did this, Andrea painted that. So there is a painting that is sent to him. That is Rafael's painting is there, and his painting is also there. He is comparing. The Romans is better when you pray. This line says it all actually. Roman here refers to Rafael. Raphael's painting of Virgin Mary is better when you pray. So what is the main purpose of Virgin Mary's painting? It is to bring the divinity, and when you are praying, it should make you pray. It should reveal that. And that's what he says. Romans is better when you pray. So when you pray to Virgin Mary, Raphael's painting is better. But still the other's virgin was his wife. The other's is Andrea Del Sarto's virgin. The Virgin Mary that is painted in his painting was his wife, Lucrezia. Men will excuse me. I am glad to judge both pictures in your presence. Clearer grows my better fortune, I resolve to think. For, do you know, Lucrezia, as God lives, said one day Agnolo his very self to Rafael, I have known it all these years. When the young man was flaming out his thoughts upon a palace wall for a room to see, too lifted up in heart because of it. Friend, there's a certain sorry little scrub goes up and down our Florence, none cares how. Who were he said to plan and execute as you are, pricked on by your popes and kings, would bring the sweat into that brow of yours. To Raphael's. We'll come back to this. Per se, with reference to painting, he says you can compare these two paintings. Painting of Andrea Del Sarto may have been great any day. Any painting for that matter, because he was given the title Andrea Senja Errori. I think it's a Spanish term which means the unerring Andrea Del Sarto. The painter who cannot do any error. That's all it means. That was his greatness. Okay. So, when you compare these two pictures and look at the outward beauty, structure, perfection about it, probably Andrea Del Sarto's picture is any day greater. And he says, it is not for any, Tom, Dick and Harry to pass a comment or judge. Who is to judge? The person who is deep into the subject, they are the best judge. He is saying, as God lives, Agnolo here refers to Michelangelo, his very self. He was mentioning this to Rafael one day, and he has known this all these years, and this is what Swamiji mentions is in the commentary as confessed by the painter himself. When the young man was flaming out his thoughts upon a palace wall for Rome to see, two lifted up in his heart because of it. When Rafael was painting on the walls of Rome, two lifted up in heart because of it. He was very inspiredly painting. As he had mentioned in the previous stanzas also, previous lines also, that they were very, they were looking up to the heaven, and such an inspired state their painting came. His heart and soul was in it. And he was pouring out his creativity into that painting. And at that point of time, Michelangelo told Rafael, friend, there's a certain sorry little scrub. That means there is a small insignificant fellow here nearby in Florence. Goes up and down our Florence, none cares how. Where he set to plan and execute as you are, pricked on by your popes and kings, would bring the sweat into that brow of yours. To Raphael's, and indeed the arm is wrong. I hardly dare, yet only you to see. Give the chalk here, quick. Thus the line should go. But the soul, he is Raphael. Rub it out. Still, all I care for, if he spoke the truth. What he? Why? Who but Michelangelo? Do you forget already words like those? He is only recalling the words of Michelangelo to put the confidence in Lucrezia that he is the greatest painter, or he is a great among the contemporaries. He ranks among them definitely. So if he is also going to get that inspiration, he will be sort of one among them. But he is desperately looking for that inspiration from her, which he is not going to get. So what Michelangelo is saying is, here is a small insignificant person relatively who is going up and down in Florence, where he is set to plan and execute as you are, pricked on by your popes and kings. Just as you have the patronage of the popes and kings, and you are given a great wall to paint in Rome, and egged upon by them, encouraged by them, when you are doing, if he is also in that same situation, if Andrea is also in the same situation, he would bring the sweat into the brow of yours. You are no way anywhere near to him when compared in terms of the art. So what is implied here is that he has not got that inspiration, and therefore he is not in that way that you are great, Rafael is great. But if that other painter had that same inspiration and the same encouragement as you have got, you will pale into insignificance in front of him. But that was not the case. That is why it is, if you relate to the line that we read out in the beginning of the session, that those who will cannot, and those who can will not. Obviously, we cannot anyway lower the status of Rafael here. He is maybe one of the greatest. But in comparison with Andrea Del Sarto, maybe Andrea Del Sarto is a little more higher than Rafael here. And again you see that his concentration comes to the painting that has been sent by Vasari in his room. And there he says, this arm is indeed wrong. If you remember in the last class itself, when we read those lines, he had again and again he is drawn to that. So, his eyes are always set for perfection, but he only looks at the physical aspect of the drawing. That's what he says here. I hardly dare, yet only you to see. Give the chalk here, quick. Thus the line should go. So there's something, the arm is wrong. He says, give me the chalk here, I can quickly change it. The line should go like this. But the soul. I can change the outward beauty of the drawing, but I cannot bring the soul of the drawing. That was his constant complaint, isn't it? He is Rafael. Whoever painted this, the great Rafael, and how he has painted, even though the slight so-called mistake. That mistake you and I may not be able to point out, but Andrea Del Sarto has seen that. Despite that painting is able to bring out the soul, bring out the inner beauty, inner depth of that painting. So that it will be missing if he were to correct that. But the soul, he is Rafael, rub it out. So rub it out means he imagined that line to be drawn there, right? He says rub that line out. Still, all I care for if he spoke the truth. But what is it that I am remembering and caring for is that Michelangelo spoke the truth. What he, why, who but Michelangelo? Do you forget already words like those? So he is desperately appealing to her to produce that inspiration for him because he has been praised by the great Michelangelo himself. If really there was a chance so lost, is whether you are not grateful but more pleased. Well, let me think so. And you smile indeed. This hour has been an hour. Another smile. If you would sit thus by me every night, I should work better. Do you comprehend? I mean that I should earn more, give you more. See, it is settled dusk now. There's a star. Morello's gone. The watch lights show the wall. The cue owls speak the name we call them by. If there was a chance like that, the chance to paint like that, it's okay. See, even at least if you are not grateful, if you are at least pleased with me, that's enough, he says. See, all the things that he has done is for the smile and the encouragement and the love of Lucrezia. She should be actually much grateful for whatever, within quote, sacrifices that he has done for her actually. But even if you are not feeling to that extent, if you are at least pleased with little bit with me, that's enough. Well, let me think so. And at this point of time, a very dry smile she gives. See, she is also sort of cooperating with him, cooperating in the sense that wanting to just sit with him, and because she has to make him work, she has to get that money for the sake of her cousin's friend. So she has to she's sort of putting up with all these things. And she gives a smile. And you smile indeed. And in this process, 1 hour has been. So he is continuously talking and 1 hour has passed. Another smile. And then he says, if you would sit thus by me every night, I should work better. Do you comprehend? He is again and again trying to make her understand that she is the inspiration for his work. He is not trying to make her understand. He is trying to reiterate for himself. Even if she were to inspire him, remember this. If it was only with the heart and soul that she wanted to help him and be an inspiration for him, would that work? Otherwise, merely as a statue, if she is going to sit in front of him, it will not work. That's why he is always saying, do you comprehend? Do you think? But he is not going to get what he wants. And why? He is saying, if you are able to inspire me like this, I will work more, I will earn, and I will give you whatever money and other things that is going to come out of my painting, I will give you. See, it is settled dusk now. That's a star. This dusk is not just the evening that they are sitting and the dusk has settled there. The dusk, as it is symbolically also talking about the setting of the sun in his life, like that it is. Morello is gone, the watch lights show the wall. He is describing the dusk in the Florence there. Morello is the outline of the mountain that they were seeing through the window. That's gone because the light is not there. The watch lights are showing on the wall. And once the dusk settles, these cue owls begin to make that sound. They are called cue owls because they make that sound cue, cue, cue like that. So they are called as cue owls. Speak the name we call them by. Come from the window, love. Come in at last. Inside the melancholy little house we built to be so gay with. God is just. King Francis may forgive me. Oft at nights when I look up from painting, eyes tired out, the walls become illumined. Brick from brick, distinct instead of mortar, fierce bright gold. That gold of his I did cement them with. Let us but love each other. Must you go? That cousin here again? He waits outside. These lines, we understand, reveals a deep sense of regret and repentance that he has, which cannot be wished away or rubbed away. That's what it is. See, you can camouflage it outside with various justifications, various philosophical statements. But deep within you, you know that. And Andrea Del Sarto knows that. And that, see, the failure of him is not just all the experiences that he is going through. His real failure is to confront the reality face to face and say, what of that? Just to say what of that and come out of it, it is just not possible. Even to ask that question, it is not possible. To that extent, his mind is completely lost, So he says, come inside the melancholy little house. It's a great house, maybe built very artistically. How we know? Because he has spent so much money on that, and it is a great mansion. But it is a very sad mansion. It is talking about the state of mind of the person who is living in that house now. We built to be gay, so gay with. We built it for our happy living here. And he says, God is just. The Supreme Lord is just. He has given the right, he has said earlier, the right kind of punishment and right kind of compensation. Everything he gives according to the law of karma only. So whatever karma that Andrea Del Sarto has done, accordingly he has got it. So with the money that he has got, he might have made a very great house externally. But the state of mind that he has chosen to be there, for that he has given this melancholy also. That is again is making like that it is. Sometimes in the night, he says King Francis may forgive me. Why King Francis should forgive? Because it is his money that he has spent on this house. Sometimes after painting, with the tired eyes also, when he looks up at the walls of the house, he says the wall become illumined with gold. Why? So much has been spent on the house. So it is constant reminder for him when he looks at the walls of the house that this money has been not justly or rightly used for the purpose for which it was granted. If the gold is what he cemented and he built that house with the gold given by King Francis. But again, let us but love each other. Must you go? She is already prepared now. 1 hour she has put up with him and he is wanting to go because already the cousin is there outside. He is giving her signals. Must you go? The cousin here again. He waits outside. Must see you. You and not with me. Those loans. More gaming debts to pay? You smile for that? Well, let smiles buy me. Have you more to spend? While hand and eye and something of a heart are left me. Works my wear and what's it worth? I'll pay my fancy. Only let me sit the grey reminder of the evening out. Idle, you call it, and muse perfectly. How I could paint were I but back in France. One picture, just one more, the Virgin's face. See, all these lines, obviously, I really do not know how to explain also, and it is not probably meant for explanation. As we said in the very beginning of the session last week, that you have to only go along with the mood and tone of the poem and what Andrea Del Sarto is pouring out. Very, very pathetic situation that he is in. So she is again giving a very dry smile. You should go to the cousin. What is the connection there? Yeah, she is smiling because maybe there is more debts to pay, and she is only sort of trying to be cordial with Andrea Del Sarto so that her work is getting done. Okay. Let that smiles buy me. Okay, if I'm sort of willing to sell myself for those smiles. But what is the worth of those smiles? Because something of a heart that is not there. Again, he is coming back to that only. So, whatever Lucrezia is offering to him as a compensation is just as some at the physical level, and that also she is very motivated with her own personal needs. That's about all. So, I'll anyway sit through this for the remainder of the evening. You may call it idle, but how can I paint? He's saying I am not having that energy, I am not having that inspiration to paint. How could I paint? Why, there is time, why don't you do the work? Yes, but I am totally tired. How can I do it? It will just not come out of me. One picture, just one more. The Virgin's face. Not yours this time. I want you at my side to hear them. That is Michael Agnolo. Judge all I do and tell you of its worth. Will you? Tomorrow satisfy your friend. I take the subjects for his corridor. Finish the portrait out of hand. There, and throw him another thing or two, if he demurs. The whole should prove enough to pay for this same cousin's freak. Beside, what's better and what's all I care about? If you would be next to me, I want to, with the inspiration, I want to paint that Virgin Mary's painting once more. But not with the resemblance of your face, the real painting as it should appear. And then you listen to what Michelangelo and others will talk about that painting. But will you do that? He is actually wishing, he is only hoping, he is only imagining. All that's not going to happen. So why don't you just be with me? Why don't you satisfy your cousin tomorrow? Whatever has to be finished for them, I'll finish it here and throw them. Whatever they require, I'll just give it to them. And another thing or two, if he complains, let me do one or two more paintings and give it, and that should be good enough, and pay for the same. If that is not enough, I'll give him one or two more paintings, and that's good enough. Beside, what's better and what's all I care about? Get you 13 scudi for the rough. Love, does that please you? Ah, but what does he, the cousin, what does he to please you more? I am grown peaceful as old age tonight. I regret little. I would change still less. Since there my past life lies, why alter it? The very wrong to Francis. It is true. I took his coin, was tempted and complied, and built this house and sinned, and all is said. My father and mother died of want. More than giving the money to the cousin and painting whatever they require, 13 scudi may be a good amount. I do not know what is the conversion. It's some silver thing. For the rough, for a sort of a neckwear, a necklace or some sort of neckwear, I want to put it on your neck, and that is what is more sort of valuable. Love, does that please you? She is asking, will that please you? He is trying various methods, various things. He is ready to offer everything, if only he can get the favor and that love of Lucrezia. But it is not the case. But what does he, the cousin? He is asking, what do you find in that cousin that he is more attractive? What is he doing that he pleases you more? And coming back to his own helplessness, I am grown peaceful as old age tonight. So this 1 hour, it has been a very long time for him and he has grown old in this. So that means, when do you grow old? When you are actually extremely tired. Aging is a myth. Aging does not come by physical years. You can feel old even when you are 40. You can feel young when you are even at 80. It is to do with one's mental status. So this 1 hour that he has been ranting here also, it is feeling like that he is extremely tired. And I have grown peaceful as old age tonight. I regret little, I would change little less. All that he is talking and ranting, however, that certain truths that he knows within him also, it is impossible for him to change. The past is past. Now he cannot alter it. Why alter it? The very wrong to Francis. He is again and again caught up in that regret. He should not have done it. He knows it here in the thought, in the intellect, but he was helpless at the mind's infatuation level. It is true. I took his coin, was tempted and complied. He complied because of the restlessness of Lucrezia only, and built this house and sinned, and all is said. I have said all these things. My father and my mother died of want. Well, had I riches of my own? You see how one gets rich? Let each one bear his lot. They were born poor, lived poor, and poor they died. And I have labored somewhat in my time and not been paid profusely. Some good son paint my 200 pictures. Let him try. No doubt there is something strikes a balance. Yes, you loved me quite enough, it seems tonight. This must suffice me here. What would one have? In heaven, perhaps, new chances. One more chance. He is talking about, he is ranting into rambling thoughts. He says, even his parents, they were born poor, they lived a poor life and died poor. And I am also like that, sort of, You see how one gets rich. So, there was a chance for him, and she also knows how to get one rich. But let each one bear his lot. But whatever each one has earned according to whatever one deserves, let it be the case. They were born poor, lived poor, and they died. And I did some of my work and I got some money. And though I have not been paid profusely. So he was not able to, his regret is that he was not even able to take care of his parents. He could have become rich and made them little more happy also. That was not the case. And who took care of them? Maybe his brother, some good son. But again he is saying, okay, he took care of them. But when it comes to the talent, nobody can equal me. Let that good son, which is his brother, paint my 200 pictures. Let him try. No. No doubt there's something that strikes a balance. That means somebody is blessed with the a sedate, moderate way of life. He might have enjoyed parents' company and the satisfaction of doing his duty. But he is not talented. On the other hand, I am extremely talented, but I am given a life which is full of melancholy and sadness. So that means there has been each and everybody, it's like a package deal given to them. So he is philosophically saying that there is something that strikes a balance. Now she is becoming restless and she is wanting to go. And he knows that. And he is actually sort of, in a way happy that she has spent so much time with him, which he did not probably expect, but she has. Yes, you loved me quite enough, it seems tonight. This might suffice me here. Even if he wants and tries to make her stay here, she is not going to say. So he is saying, that's enough. The great thing, great help that you did me today, it is sufficient for me. What would one have? So what else can I ask for? Yes, one more thing. In heaven perhaps, new chances, one more chance. 4 great walls in the New Jerusalem, metered on each side by the angels read, for Leonard, Rafael, Agnolo and me to cover. The 3 first without a wife, while I have mine. So still they overcome, because there is still Lucrezia as I choose. Again, the cousin's whistle. Go, my love. So if there is a chance that if there is a chance for him to be among the greats and painting, where in heaven 4 walls are given, the angel has measured and given the 4 walls for 4 of the great painters to paint. One for Leonardo da Vinci, one for Rafael, one for Michelangelo, and one for me to cover. The first 3 without a wife, while I have mine. So still they will be overcome. So what he says is, they are all inspired by themselves. They are not looking forward to an external inspiration. They will paint their pictures. Yet I will be able to overcome them. Why? Because I have my wife. Because there is still Lucrezia as I choose. So even if that chance is given, with your help, I will be able to sort of do a great painting there. In other words, he ends up by saying that he's coming back to the same point where he started, that with the help of an external inspiration, he will be able to produce the art which he is supposed to produce. So as I said, with the poem and the explanation, it probably diminishes the value of it. Because as I say, in this poem, you have to only feel the depth from which he is speaking. Depth in the sense, what I mean is his emotions, his failure, his infatuation which has completely stopped him from blossoming, and all this what he could understand at the level of the intellect, but helplessly, that failure to confront the reality of life and yet be the prisoner that he chooses to be. Again the cousin's whistle. Go, my love. Robert Browning. We'll conclude with Swamiji's commentary. Andrea Del Sarto, 1487 to 1531 AD, was one of the greatest painters of his time, who was known as the faultless painter, an artist of the caliber of Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo or Rafael, admitted in the poem by Rafael himself as being superior to him. This celebrated painter of Florence produced several outstanding works of art. He was endowed with a remarkable readiness, certainty of hand, and unhesitating firmness in his painting. His painting gained for him the preeminent title Andrea Senza Errori, Andrew the Unerring. The youth of 23 was already the best fresco painter in central Italy, barely rivaled by Rafael, who was older by 4 years. Michelangelo's Sistine frescoes were then only in a preliminary stage. Andrea fell in love with Lucrezia, wife of a hatter named Carlo Recanati. The hatter died opportunely. Andrea married Lucrezia on 26 December 1512. She was a very beautiful woman, painted by her lover husband as Madonna and otherwise. Even in painting other women, his infatuation made them resemble Lucrezia. Before the end of 1516, a composition of his paintings, including that of Madonna, were sent to the French court. The art-loving monarch Francis was much impressed and invited Andrea to Paris. Andrea journeyed thither and was handsomely remunerated. Lucrezia, however, wrote urging his return to Italy. The king assented with the understanding that his absence from France would be short. He was entrusted with a sum of money to be used to purchase works of art for his royal patron. Andrea instead spent the king's money in building a house in Florence for his wife. In this poem, Robert Browning highlights the devastating influence of a man's infatuation for woman, how it destroys a person and his achievements. Andrea Del Sarto's art was acclaimed to excel that of other greats, but his infatuation took the toll of a king's patronage, his career, reputation, and even his beloved Lucrezia. Since Lucrezia had her own lover and was totally indifferent towards Andrea, a blind infatuation with a woman has reduced a great artist to nothing, causing the loss of personality and the very object of infatuation. This is what we need to understand. Ultimately, if he had just won Lucrezia completely at the cost of every other loss that he suffered, it was probably justified. But that was not the case. So, attachment ultimately makes you lose the object of attachment also. This is a law. The poem Ladomia showed the wife's attachment towards husband. Andrea Del Sarto shows the husband's attachment towards wife. And next poem, again, I do not know how we are going to do. It's an epic. The poem Sorab and Rustum talks about the attachment or the infatuation of a father and son in their relationship and how it caused a great tragedy. So, we will continue in the next class.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.